Steve, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you very much.
Absolutely. We're excited to have you here. I was with you on your Realtor Corner video, Facebook thing a while back, and I had told you that I was thinking about starting a podcast. And here we are, 32 episodes later. And I finally bring you on.
Finally bring me on.
We've been trying to figure this out for a while, but you've been out just traveling and romping around having a good time. So I actually want to hear about your time in Nepal later in the episode as well.
Okay.
But for now, for those who don't know you, go ahead and give just a brief overview of you and kind of your background, and then Cornerstone as well, and then we'll dive into each individual section.
Okay. I'll give you the quick overview.
The Cliff Notes version.
There you go. I grew up in Connecticut, came down here to go to college. I think we attended the same institution of learning.
PCC.
Yes, correct.
I forgot that.
Yes.
I forgot you went to PCC.
Yep. So graduated from there, met my wife while I was in school, ended up staying here, got into, of all things, the car business. So I ended up selling cars for about 6 months, and then I got moved into the finance department part of it. And by that time, I was still looking to move. You know, I didn't want to live here for long. I wanted to go, and ended up getting a job at a bank, and was at that bank for 4 years, I guess. And during that time is when I realized, you know what, I want to be here. I want to live here. I love Pensacola. Can't find any better beaches. Can't find any better environment. It's just a great place. And so, ended up, I had a friend of mine that we. Ended up going to lunch one day, and he was doing what I do now, David. So you've met David.
Yes.
So went to lunch one day and said, "Hey, I want to do something. Let's look at starting a business together." And I had looked at a lot of things. I had some friends that were had their own business, and it seemed to me that they were always out fishing, always out hunting. So I'm like, I need to get my own business.
Yeah, it must be nice to make your own schedule, right?
I was like, let's do this. And then I realized once I owned a business that I don't have the time that I used to. So it completely changed.
We talk about that all the time.
Yep.
It's funny because we have many of my friends are still in college, and all of them tell me it must be nice to be able to make your own schedule. And it's like, it is nice to make my own schedule, but it's not the schedule that you think it is.
Right. You would think that. Yeah, I'm so, and I've been doing this we've had our business for 17 years now. So now I've got things in place that allow me to do some things like that, which I guess we'll talk about a little later.
Yeah.
But so we started the business, ended up working so many hours just trying to get it going. And that was in 2004. So we started in 2004. Hurricane Ivan hit, and it was a few years of. I remember telling my wife when we started this business, 'cause I left a good bank business. I had some stability. I had all the things. And I told her, I remember telling her, I said, "Hey, give me a year. We've got 12 months of savings. Give me a year." And I said, if it doesn't work out, I'll go get a real job. Well, that was in April. That'll be 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just been. Things have opened up. God has given us opportunity, and here we are.
Yeah, that's so fantastic. I love that, and I feel like there's a lot of people have that similar story. Like I will try this out. I'll put everything that I have into this, and I'll just give it everything I have. And if it doesn't work out, then I'll go back and that's how I was with school. I felt like, well, I want to do this, but if it doesn't work out, I can always go back to school. But once I got a taste of it, and you realize that once you work really hard at something and you're building that for yourself, I feel like, I don't know, it's kind of a snowball effect, and it starts to grow and build, and it's a little bit addicting. I didn't want to go back.
And I had just last week, I had someone come up to me and say, I want to start a business, but I don't know if I'm ready. I said, well, there's certain things that you can prepare for. You've already got the experience in what you're doing. I said, the only thing that you need to do now is have a leap of faith.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because you can sit there all day long and go, yeah, I can do this in a year. I can do it until you actually step off that cliff.
Yep.
Then you have to do it.
Yep.
Then you have to. And
that's exactly right.
Young people out there that get out of college, they're ready to start a business. It's one of those things where you can prepare all you can, and then it's time to jump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just read a quote last week, actually, that was exactly that, and it's cool that it coincides with what you're saying now, because it said the key is to start before you're ready. And I just thought that was really interesting because you're never truly ready. If you're always waiting until you're ready, then the circumstances, things just aren't going to line up.
Yeah.
And God's just like, hey, take that leap of
And
faith.
I'll tell you a quick story about that, because I was working at this bank, well-known bank in town, and I had started this business. My business partner and I, officially ready to go, but I was going to go on vacation, paid for by the bank.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Had my vacation
nice.
time. I was going to go on vacation, and when I got back, I was going to give him my 2 weeks notice.
Okay.
Well, my business partner had already started, so he was already doing stuff, and I doing some loans, and I'm like, okay, we need a bank account. So I went, not thinking anything, and I'm just showing, I opened up a bank account at the bank that I worked at.
Oh, no.
And so my manager at the time came in and said, "What's this?" And I told him, "Well, we're starting this business. I haven't done it yet, and I haven't left. I'm still doing it." He's like, "Yeah, you're having a great month. Everything's going well." He said, "But if you don't resign, I'm gonna have to fire you."
Oh, no.
So it's a little bit of a forced.
Yes. So literally, before I went on vacation to Hawaii, mind you, so I'm over on the other side of the, and before I went on vacation, I left with no job.
Wow.
So I got 2 weeks pay and came home and got pushed into it. So, and I look back going, would I really have, how long would it have taken me to actually jump? And so it kind of pushed me into it. Like you're saying,
Yep.
you get pushed into it, and then, 5, 10, 15 years later, you look back and go, why didn't I do it sooner?
Yeah.
That's
why didn't I do
that's
it
what I
sooner?
was just gonna say. I was trying to figure out how to articulate that, because everybody has that same fear, and nobody feels like they're ready. If they say they are, they're lying probably. But every time you look back, even just in the day-to-day thing, it's like when you leave the gym, you feel so good about it, but it's like, man, I didn't want to go. Or for making calls or whatever it is, it's like, why was I so scared of that?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's that same way with major decisions, major life changes that either God is leading you to, or that that's the logical next step. The sooner you make the leap, the better, So
Very true.
it's just good to make the change when you realize that that's the right next step. So, okay. So you've been in business for 17 years now. Go ahead and give us an overview of Cornerstone and kind of the mortgage industry and the services you offer, and we'll kind of dive into it from there.
Okay. So in 2004, April 15th, tax day, was the day we officially started our company, believe it or not. So that's our anniversary every year.
Tax
on
day.
Tax day. And so a good thing is, a lot of times partnerships don't work. I hear all the time people say, well, I had a partner for 5 years and then it didn't work. Well, my partner David and I have been in business for 17 years. Didn't know him at all before we got in. I actually was his banker. So that's how I got to know him.
Wow.
But it's worked because we have, we both trust each other. He has things he brings to the table. I have things I bring to the table. But the biggest thing is trust. And so starting the business, we went through, just like everybody in the mortgage business, 2006, 7, 8, and 9, you thought the world was going to come to an end. And we just stayed at it. Some people left. We just stayed at it. We didn't have a lot of debt for the business. And so we were able to keep going. But during that time, we learned how to be lean and how to find things to do that we were good at. And so at that time, we really started doing a lot of FHA loans, government loans, low down payments, easier to get approved. So we started doing that. And then, that really, really saved us. I mean, I remember days where we had thinking, am I going to have to go get another job? Because things were so bad. And we just kept at it, kept going. Other companies were going out of business, and because we didn't have a lot of debt, we didn't have a lot of overhead, we kept going. And then, 2010, 2011 came along, 2012, things started coming back, and it got to a point where it was where I had so much business that I couldn't handle it by myself anymore. And I was, doing 5 loans a month thinking, this is good. This is really good. But that's all I could handle because I was dealing with the client up front. I was taking care of all the things on the back end, and I couldn't go get new business. So I'd have 5 one month, 3 the next, 7 the next, 3 the next, because I didn't have any help.
Yeah.
And that's when I hired my first employee, was in 2012.
There we go. That's what we were talking about before we hit record.
Right. And so once I hired that, then things just changed. You know, it was a number of things. The market got better, but having that person take things that I was not good at. I don't like the back end. I don't like dealing with, you know, getting all this information and making sure that I have this verification and that verification. No, I want to talk to that client. I want to see how we can help them purchase the home of their dreams or an investment property or something. How can we do that? And that's what I enjoy doing is, hey, this is what you can do. This is how much you can afford.
Yeah.
And then go from there. And then now, once I hired my first person, they were able to, the hardest part for me was handing it off. Going, you know what? No one, and I remember having a mentor tell me, if you can find someone that'll do 70% as well as you will, hire them. Hire them. Because you're going to be making sure you're doing everything right. But if you can find someone that can just take that and have a 70% job investment, then you'll get it. You'll go to the next level. So handing it off and going, you know what? I've done my part. I'm giving it to you and I'm entrusting you to get it to where it closes. And doing that allowed us in our business to just bloom.
Yeah. There's actually, there's 2 points that I wanted to make. Number one is kind of coming back to earlier, we're talking about, you know, those nice fishing days and must be nice to make your own schedule and things like that. People don't see or think about, it's the classic motivational poster where you have the iceberg and then all the hard work underneath. People don't see those sleepless nights or the nights wondering, am I going to have to go back and get a 9 to 5, or am I doing the right thing? Am I going to be able to make payroll, or am I going to be able to provide for my family? They don't see that stress and the stress of having to go out into the marketplace every day and find your own business. They just see when you take a day off and go on the boat, it's like, wow, that must be really nice on a Tuesday. And it's like, that's not what it is. And number two, delegation. We talk about that a lot on the podcast, just because that's something that Danny and I are really kind of, that's fresh in our minds, particularly mine, because bringing him on board, it was like, I'll show you how to do things. But in the very beginning, I really had a hard time just letting him take it. I would always kind of be over his shoulder watching him. And in the end, that defeats the purpose of bringing someone on board if you're not
you're still
leveraging. Yeah, exactly.
That's
you're
right.
Still overseeing everything. And I've kind of had to learn and been able to learn how to move into more of a quality control position rather than holding his hand as he does everything, you know, and I think that that's just helped both of us tremendously.
Training is something that most salespeople aren't good at.
Fair enough.
And so one of the things, if you can get them trained, get an assistant, a transaction coordinator trained really well, which we're not good at. So you hire somebody, you find somewhere to get them trained, and then you go, okay, now I trust you. And you have to inspect what you expect.
Yeah.
And so you still got to go back and make sure they're doing everything right, you know, just follow it up. But then there gets to a point where you trust them. Yeah. And until they give me a reason not to, I'll keep trusting them.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah. And that's something that, I mean, it's just a matter of growth and kind of taking those different steps, taking the step to hire somebody and then learning how to be able to trust them. And so you can all move up. Jumping off of that, then what were some things, and I know we kind of been touching on this topic, what were some things, not necessarily negative things, but that you didn't realize about the industry before you got into it? And I know that's kind of a broad question.
Besides not having as much off time as you thought you would.
Yeah.
That's one of them. Another one is that guidelines change so much. So I could have a borrower that I'm talking to, and then a month later, the government could change something, and what I said we could do, we can't. So that the guidelines change quite a bit. Lenders, sometimes we were a broker where we would have 6 or 7 different lenders that we used, and they would put overlays over certain loans. So things that we could do. So it was such a ever-changing market.
Yeah.
You know, just what we could offer would change, what we could do, rates would change. So that's something that I did not anticipate. Is just, I figured, hey, here's the guidelines, we're all
start
good to go.
Getting business.
Then things would change.
Yeah. Now, how do you manage expectations properly then? With that knowledge that things change so quickly, how do you handle that now?
Well, you go in with, it doesn't, say it changes. If I have a client within 60 days, even if I start that file, I'm good now.
Okay.
Another thing that I found that really surprised me is clients not getting us what we need. We close our loans on time unless I have a client that just won't get us what we need. And there's things that come up that may delay it, but for the most part, it's now we've set this expectation up front. Hey, our goal is to close this loan when it's supposed to close, March 31st. However, I need you to commit that you're going to get me what we need within 24 hours when we ask for it.
It's a double-sided effort.
And so by doing that, by letting them know, hey, we need you just like you need us. We need to work together.
Yeah.
And until you have that, until you set that expectation, I also tell them up front that it's, one of the things I like to use. There was a time when things were just going like this, like it was just, and it's now with COVID, there's so many new guidelines of verifying income and all these different things that really change our industry, and people don't understand it. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things I try to set those expectations, I'll say, you get on a plane and you expect that pilot to get you to your destination, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Correct.
But along the way, you hit some turbulence. You may have a passenger next to you that's a little unruly. There's things along the way that may bother you, may move you off your where you're headed, but we're going to get you to the landing.
Yeah.
We're going to bring you in just like that pilot. You expect to get to closing. We're going to get you to closing. There may be things and bumps along the way. Just trust us. We will get you there.
We'll get you to the end result.
And it's that expectation of, there are things. And I have clients come in all the time that are just scared to death because they've heard how bad the process is.
Yeah.
And by setting those expectations up front is if you get us what we need, and we'll get you to that closing.
Yeah. That's a great analogy to kind of set those expectations as well. That's good.
Yeah, we actually, just a couple episodes ago, we had Brandon Spain on the podcast, and he was talking about there's a lot of parallels between aviation and business. He was talking specifically about how checklists, everything has to be perfect every single time or you can't fly. And I was like, man, that's really interesting, implementing that same kind of mindset in your business where, hey, this same process has to be completed to the letter every single time.
And that's how we close on time, is because we have processes.
Exactly.
We have Tuesday updates, Friday updates.
Yeah.
We have a list. When I have a person in my office that sends out all of our documents, our initial loan documents, and she goes through a checklist.
Yep.
It's pretty simple. You follow that checklist. I've got a person in my office that Juliana collects all of our upfront documents from the borrower.
Yeah.
She goes through the checklist,
Same
make
process
sure we have
every
everything.
time.
If it's not there, she goes back and says, this is what I need. So by having those processes that you follow every single time,
yes,
you're going to close on time.
That's perfect for my next question, because my next question was going to be what kind of systems and processes do you have in place now after that many years in the business? What does the process look like, and how have you kind of leveraged and made sure that things happen every single time?
That's a very good question. So it is, we have lists. So we have, and I've got people that have been doing this. Lena in my office has been doing this for 15 years. She still has a checklist because she does not want to miss anything. And sometimes you get going, you're like, oh, I know what I'm doing. And then you miss that.
It's easy to do.
We have, on our team, we have 3 different people that do 3 different things. So Juliana does all the upfront collecting of documents. She goes through the application process to make sure everything is correct. From there, it goes to Lena. Lena looks at it, reviews it, makes sure everything is right, make sure income's just a double second set of eyes looking at it. And then Abby sends out all the documents, sends out the disclosures, makes sure everything's accurate. And of course, I check it along the way. Before she sends it out, I review it. And then once that happens, once the borrower signs the documents, I don't touch it again. It goes to Lena. Lena's the one that follows up with the borrower, gives them updates on where we are every week. She works with the title company. So we have these processes so people know their job.
Yeah.
That's a big problem. When I had issues with people not doing what they're supposed to do in their job, it's because they didn't know their job description.
Interesting.
Your employees have to know what their job description is. And you can say, oh, it's pretty easy. They're a cashier doing this. Well, is their job description being cashier and being customer service?
Yeah.
That cashier
Yeah.
is the last person they see, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
So what is their job? What is their description? And unless the employee or the person on your team knows that, things are not going to go the way they're supposed to.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Get lost in the system.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because once everybody's crystal clear on their exact role, that's when you have things kind of start moving as a well-oiled machine. That's something that we just in the last month, maybe a month and a half, have implemented a new CRM, and there's a transaction management in that CRM, which we're kind of in the process of importing all of our current transaction management stuff into the CRM. But it's got fields for everything, checklists for everything. Okay, so if so-and-so does this, who is this assigned to? Who gets notified once this is done? I can get a text notification once somebody's received the pre-approval letter. It's really cool. I like it a lot. And I was working on it this morning thinking, this is how it should be. This is how things run as a well-oiled machine. I don't know why that's so hard to say, but this is how things just get moving and how real growth happens when you can just repeat that same process over and over and over. And it's just exciting.
Yeah, and we're in customer service.
Yeah.
Our job is to make that customer have a good experience. And if there's going to be things that happen, I mean, you can't please everybody.
Yeah.
But if you have these processes in place, they're going to have a good experience because you know it works. And we're always going back. I mean, we go back all the time. Is this something we need to change? Where do we need to change? We do it together. We do it together as a team. Now, I can sit there and have these ideas of, yeah, we need to do this, this, and this. If I go in, and I hope my team's not listening to this, but if I go in and say, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it, there may be some pushback going, hey, wait a second, this works.
Yeah.
But if we bring them in together and say, okay, this system, this part of it, this little
could be
piece
tweaked.
is not working. What can we do together to make that better? Then they buy into it because it's their idea, or we work
Exactly.
together, and then it ends up even being smoother.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exciting. And that's something that, again, we've been working on recently, just trying to figure out, okay, how can we, who should be doing what, how to make sure everything is done. And that's something that I've bragged to him about, of your team often. I've gotten several handwritten cards from you guys. I don't know who writes your cards. They're signed the Steve Jones team, not Steve Jones. So I know some, but it's cool. We'll go out to get a coffee or something. And I get a handwritten note afterwards saying, hey, thanks for your time. I really enjoyed it. And I'm like, who all are you meeting during the week? How many cards do you send out? I mean, I was looking for an answer for that. It's probably a ton, but it's like, it just really sticks in my mind. I mean, you really have done things well,
Well, and it's all about relationship.
100%.
You bring that up about those cards. Those cards are because we truly appreciate working with people. We truly appreciate getting to know them better. But it's all about relationship. And that's every client we have. It's about relationship. One of the things, and this is not one of your questions, but I'll tell you, is during COVID, we used to meet with every client. So I'd get an application. I would have them come into the office. I'd sit down with them. I'd want to get to know them face to face because, and this is for anybody's business, 9 times out of 10, the first person they meet is the one they're going to use. So if they call you and say, hey, I'm looking at this house, I want to meet with you, and you go, well, I'm out of town till next Thursday. Instead of, if you were to send someone from your team to do it, 9 times out of 10, they're going to come back and use you.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes. And so the problem is that when COVID hit, no one was meeting. And I would talk to someone on the phone and I would lose business. I mean, it was crazy how many times I'd think I'd have this great customer. Hey, you were referred by someone I know, but there was no face-to-face. They didn't see how I respond. They didn't see the look in my eyes when I talk to them.
Yeah.
They didn't see our care and concern that we have to make sure they have a good experience.
Yeah.
And so they would just, hey, the rate is, this much better, or the cost is $100 less.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with this
Be
person.
shopping around. Okay.
And so I was like, something's got to change. There's got to be some way that we can have this relationship. And so I immediately went out and started sending videos.
Yeah.
And I could go, had one the other day at a lower title, never met them until closing. I went to closing. And I walked in and she was like, hey, Steve. Like she knew me.
Yeah.
Because I would send a video to her explaining processes. Hey, this is the next step. So she would see my face. She felt like she knew me.
Yep.
And that changed everything because
Wow.
it's all about relationship.
Interesting. Well, that's kind of in tandem with that. That's one reason that we like to do the podcast as well, is because if somebody wants to, kind of learn about us or, if they're researching us and they look up my name, they can find hours and hours of me talking with different people on different topics, and that's kind of a way to build that relationship without you having to be there with each individual person. But I think, I forget as well. I do get your videos, like your market update videos and things like that. And it's always like, hey, there's Steve's face in my inbox. That's really, so what software do you use to send out videos?
It's Co-Video.
Okay.
So it's just it's a company. We pay an annual fee, and it's been so good. I mean, the response that we get, people are blown away by, wow, you sent me and I had one guy, I actually go to church with him, and I sent him a video, and he goes, yeah, I just thought it was a canned video till I opened it up and realized you were speaking to me. I'm like, yeah, of course.
Interesting. So do you have like a time set aside each day to sit down and just record out and just bang out a bunch of videos?
Sometimes I do. I did that today. I had 3 I had to get out, and I just did it all at once, but it's so simple. I've got a webcam on my computer.
Yeah.
It's literally clicking a button. I know what I'm going to say. We send one out when we send out docs, and I'll do a video. Hey, this is Steve from Cornerstone. Just want to give you an update. Those documents are going out. Here's what you need to get in to sign them. If you have any questions, let us know. Boom, done. It's super easy, and yet they have that personal, I know him.
Yeah.
I trust him. I see his face,
That's, I mean, it does make a difference. I
Yeah,
agree
if you
with
don't
what you're
trust
saying.
somebody, you're not going to do business with them.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Even if they have better prices or
That's right.
better rates.
You
or
want to
whatever.
trust them, and
Yep.
it's more trust are more important than rates. Because if you don't trust, and I tell these people all the time, you might get a lower rate, which usually doesn't happen, but what's your experience going to be like? Is it worth what you lost with that experience?
Wow.
That's the thing is people hear those horror stories of the terrible experiences, and we hear them too. And I mean, there's some transactions that are just rough,
True.
But for the most part, when you have someone who is devoted, on a full-time basis, this is their job to make your life easier or to get you to that finish line like that pilot. It's going to go a lot better than someone else. And how much is that worth? A lot of times.
And something too that I remind our team all the time, and they remind me all the time, is that we do this every single day.
Yeah.
And when you have clients that are looking for houses, you do it. We do it every day, and so we have expectations.
Yeah.
They don't do it every day. So our mindset, we need to be thinking, what are they experiencing? Why are they responding this way? And usually if someone responds in a way, it's not because they're mad at you. It's because they're either afraid of what's happening and they just need to be walked through it.
Yeah.
And that's something, I can't believe they're calling me about this again. This is the 4th time I've talked about it. Well, that means there's an issue that they're concerned about. And then you got to go and, okay, I know I go through this every day. You don't. Here's how we can help.
Yeah.
And it's that empathy that you got to have that sometimes we get. This is what we're doing.
Yeah, that's
you lose
true.
that empathy.
That's true. Even in training too, it's easy to like, why don't you get this? Mark is kind of famous for that. Like I already explained this to you. Why don't you have it yet? But it's easy when you're involved in something so much to not give other people that, I guess, grace or the room to not understand. I feel like I really, talking earlier about salespeople not being good at training, I completely agree with you. I think it's been such a blessing for us being brothers and having grown up so close and things like that. I was just going to make that little caveat earlier. It's been awesome to be able to train you and work with you because we communicate so well. So when I'm trying to explain something to him, he gets it more than maybe somebody else would.
Well, and it's interesting that you say it because I have 2 girls that work for me.
Yeah.
2 of my children.
Yeah, I know Abby.
Yeah, Abby and Juliana, they both work for me.
Oh, okay.
And Abby started working for me when she was in high school. So she would come in the summers and answer phones or do whatever. And then when she was in college, she would come home and do the same thing with no desire to ever, once she graduated, she was out the door. She was done. She was not working here
Just
anymore.
like you didn't want to stay in Pensacola.
There you go. And then she graduated in December of 19. So right before everything went crazy. And she's like, you know what? I think I want to come work for you. And she is amazing because she's been in the business. She's just right out of college, so she still can pick things up really quick.
Yep.
And so she does an amazing job. Julia, my youngest, has been working with me. She she spent a year or two just traveling around the world.
Good for her.
Doing some mission stuff. So when she came back, she's like, okay, I'm going to work for like a month and then I'm going to travel. I'm going to work a month and then travel. Man. Well, then when COVID hit, she couldn't travel. In fact, she had just gotten back from Europe, like as they were shutting down the airport. So she's now like, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. She bought a house. And she does a great job with what she does because she was, for one thing, she's been raised in it. But like you said, we've got that. She knows, and it's a fine line because how I deal with her with issues or not getting the job. Hey, you need to work on this.
It's
and how I deal with someone that's not family.
Yeah, that's true too.
And I have to watch myself.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I'll say something and I'll be like, well, would you say that to another employee?
That's true.
So there's things you got to watch out for, but exactly what you're saying. There is that
chemistry
because they understand where I'm coming from and vice versa.
Yeah, 100%. That's something, just kind of jumping a little bit different trains of thought now. So we've talked about kind of your structure and the different people that you have handling different things. What does your day look like? And every day in real estate is different. That's something everybody says. But typically, what are you doing on a day-to-day basis? What does your day consist of?
Okay, every day is different, like you said. But every day I have a different focus.
Okay.
So every day when I come in the office, we have a team meeting at 9:30. So we get in, we do all the things we need to do, check our emails, do whatever we got to do, and then we have a team meeting at 9:30 to go over loans in process, to go over new leads, to go over loans that have closed. I mean, there's things that we go through. When is this closing? And basically what I'll do is I'm look at the big picture.
Yeah.
So I don't focus on like, we need this little sheet of paper for this loan.
Yeah.
That's what the team does. Mm-hmm. So we'll sit down and meet and I'll say, okay, here's the loans we have working. Are there any issues we need to know about? Well, I've got a concern with this one. Okay, I need to make a phone call. We'll get that taken care of. Or these are the leads. Who do I need to call today? And then on every Tuesday, I call current leads. So people that we have gotten pre-approved.
Okay.
So if they're already pre-approved, then I'll call them and say, hey, do you have any questions? Is there any homes that you're looking at this weekend? Things like that, just so there's that communication going.
Yeah.
Wednesday, I call realtors. So I'll call new realtors. I'll call realtors I've been working with. And then Thursday, I call loans that have already closed. So I'll try to, a month back, I'll go back and try to call these clients. Just say, hey, it's been a month. Is there anything that we can do to help? Do you have any questions? You've been getting stuff in the mail that you don't understand? Give us a call. Because like you, we don't want to stop our relationship with them as soon as
you don't want them to feel like
Exactly.
they're just a transaction.
Right.
Follow up is vital.
Yeah, exactly. And then Friday is really just looking at, calling loans. We send updates every Friday with loans in process. And
so you got a lot
just
going
got those things on Friday. And during the summer, I try to leave a little early on Fridays. Mm-hmm. It doesn't always happen, but that's kind of what our day looks like. And then during the day, I meet people for lunch. I meet with clients coming in,
building relationships,
that kind of thing. So usually in the afternoons, I meet with clients because that goes to that process of I talk with them up front. We go through everything. We get all the documents. We send them the documents to sign, and then we try to get them to come in so I can go, especially first-time home buyers, to get them to come in and go, let me explain everything to you. Here's the process. This is what's going on.
Try and preemptively answer questions.
Yep. I introduced them to Lena. So from here on out, Lena's going to hold your hand all the way through, just so they have those expectations. But that's meeting with those clients that we're working with. And a lot of times they don't, right now people don't want to come in. Yeah. But if it's a first-time home buyer, I really want to get them in so they can truly understand the process. So they're not sitting there, what happens now?
What's going on?
They know what's going on.
100%. So. Yeah, that's something that we are still kind of figuring out as well. Is not, I don't want anybody to feel like they're being passed off. If there's someone handling the transaction, they're handling it under the bigger umbrella, which is Mark and then me underneath that, so they have that care and attention. That's one of people's biggest problems with, I won't say, but bigger local lenders is they feel like they just get handed off from person to person to person, and you lose that that relationship, that personal touch,
That trust.
and
that you're
that
talking
trust.
about.
That's true. Like,
Yep.
okay, I don't know. I came to Steve. I don't know who this person is. So I feel like that's really valuable to bring them in and sit them down and say, hey, here's me. Here's Lena. She's going to be helping you. She's underneath me. She's been trained. She's been doing this for so long. You can trust her. If you hear something from her, it's basically coming from me. I think that's really, really a valuable way to handle it.
Yeah. My job is to get that client, walk them through. This is what you can do. Structuring that loan to get it where they can do the loan.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that go into that. Getting their credit up. I mean, there's certain things you have to do, but then it comes to, that's what I'm good at. This is what Lane is good at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's good at getting that loan to closing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had just a backstory here. I had one of my employees that got married, gave me like a 4-week notice, and I didn't have time to go hire somebody. So it took me a while to get somebody. And so I was on my own for about 2 weeks before Lena actually started working 6 years ago. And it was a nightmare.
Oh, I'll bet.
Because I didn't do all that stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing. And so, yes, you want to have this person transaction coordinator, take it to closing, because they know all the details of what do we need to do to get it there.
Yeah.
You and I are good at structuring that contract, structuring that loan, doing those things.
Yep.
So, yeah.
100%. Well, you mentioned in there getting credit up and different things like that. That's perfect, because I texted you this just a couple hours ago. I was like, hey, while we're on the show, I really want to ask, because this is something that we see all the time, right? We see people who aren't approved for a loan right now, or people who are, they're trying to get a rental and their credit's not where they need it to be. Other than just the basic, make your payments on time, don't use more than, keep your ratio down or whatever. How do you coach people, and what do you tell people to do to work on their credit, and really, how do you make strides for that?
Okay. I get a lot of clients that come in they want to buy now.
Yeah.
And as you know, rates are determined by credit score. So it's a credit risk rating system. So your rates are going to be, if you have a 620 score, your rates are going to be higher than if you have a 720 score.
Yeah.
And so I try to tell a lot of my clients, especially if they're in that lower 600 to 620 range, I'll say, what's your time frame? Do you have to buy this house in the next 6 months or the next 3 months? No. Well, let me help you work on your score, because if you wait, none of us want people to
save
wait.
you money.
Yeah.
But because we're ready, let's help you now. But if they'll wait 6 months, build their score up, or 10 months or 12 or 2 years, I've got clients I've worked with for 3 years that are now able to close. In fact, I
Wow.
had one 2 months ago. I mean, it was crazy.
Interesting.
I didn't even remember her. She came in my office and said, she's like, "You don't remember me, do you?" I'm like, "Not really."
We're going to cut this part out. No.
She goes, "It was great." She goes,
3 years later.
She goes, "I came in your office 3 years ago, and you told me what I needed to do to get my credit
And
score
she
up."
did it.
And she did it.
There you
and she
go.
was able to buy a house.
Wow.
And that was so satisfying.
I'll bet it
this
was.
is why we do this.
Yeah.
So going back to those credit, get your score up. You set a number of them. Pay your bills on time. Keep your balances under 50%. So don't use all of your revolving limits.
Yeah.
Keep it under. The lower you have, the better your scores are going to be. Have at least 1 or 2 revolving accounts.
Now, okay, for those who don't know, revolving accounts meaning
Credit cards.
Okay.
Yeah, credit cards, or furniture store. Those are revolving usually, because they want you to. Revolving is anything that you can pay down and then use again.
Okay.
So they want you to
Okay.
go, hey, pay down your credit card
and then
you
use
can
it
use
again.
it again.
Yeah, yeah.
Line of credit, something like that.
Yeah.
So those things, it's obviously don't pay your bills over 30 days late. I mean, that's pretty
Pay
obvious.
your bills on time, people.
And then have at least, like I said, have at least 1 credit card.
Okay.
I have a lot of clients that'll come in that'll have either low scores or no scores.
That's
and I'll
something
tell
I've seen
them,
recently.
I'll say, you need to get at least 1 credit card. And there's a ways to do that. There's secured credit cards. If you don't have any credit, you can go to a local bank and get a secured credit card. Capital One has some. I refer people to Central Credit Union. They have some.
Okay.
You can pay me later. No.
Sponsor us.
But that's a way to get a credit card. And basically what you do is you have money in an account that gets held up. It's basically
like
secure,
prepaid.
so they're using that 250, and you can't get anything over 250. And
Okay.
if you don't pay, it's there to cover it.
That's wise.
But that helps people get that score, get that going. You also, I have people that come in and say, I don't have a credit score, but I have 6 years of rental history. There's ways to get a loan. You don't always have to have a score.
Yeah.
It's called
Interesting.
non-traditional credit.
Okay.
And you have to have, there's a lot of it you have to have. So you have to have at least 24 months of rental history. You got to show that you've paid your cell phone bill for 12 months, things like that.
Basically, that
Okay.
you're responsible.
Correct.
Yeah, and that's what I tell people a lot of times. I have actually 2 or 3 friends who I've just been having these conversations. I'm sounding like a nerd that I just talk with my friends about credit, but just that they don't have any credit at all. And I'm like, you really need to. I had that same conversation. You have to get some card with like a low balance or a prepaid or something like that that'll help you, because all it is, your credit score is just it's a measurement of your willingness to pay debts or your responsibilities. And
Exactly.
that's, if you don't have that, it's almost worse than having bad credit, because they have no indication at all,
Exactly. And even if you don't have credit, you're still going to pay a higher rate because there's no score to go off of.
Yeah.
So yeah, we recommend everybody get a credit score. I know there's some out there, I won't say his name, some famous financial guys that say you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Listen,
all right, Dave Ramsey.
and I love, I like
I
a
think
lot of
he's
his
got-
stuff. I
that's
like a lot of
something-
his stuff. That's something like, yes, there may be that one lender out there that really focuses on that. But
Yes.
the higher the credit score, the better your rate, the more money you're going to save over the life.
It's a tool. It's a tool, and you can abuse any tool. There's everything to excess. Not everything, but we have this conversation a lot about even just about soda or food or things like that. Things to excess become dangerous.
That's right.
Same is true with credit. Credit can be leveraged, and it's necessary in a lot of ways. That's my biggest problem with Dave Ramsey. And Mark feels the same way. We talked about this at lunch the other day. I think he's really, really good for debt consolidation, but not.
Yes.
There's a lot of things that the principles don't apply. So I actually had a lady ask me today, and I'm just kind of springing this on you, but she just went through bankruptcy. What was it, 6 months ago or something like that? Very recently.
Very recently, yeah.
Is there any chance of someone like that being able to get a loan?
2 years.
Okay.
2 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you got to wait 2 years. And deed in lieu is another one we've seen a lot lately. For FHA, for a government loan, that's a 3-year waiting period.
Okay.
Once you hit that 3 years, you can purchase.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So before we wrap it up, I want to talk about a couple other things that you're involved in. So you just recently got back from Nepal. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about your trips, and then Hope Has a Name, which is I want to hear about that.
Okay, so the short version is it's a long process, but in 2014 I took my first trip to Nepal, went to some really remote areas, saw some really deep poverty, saw some things that really made me realize that there's more that I could be doing. And it's I believe that God called me over there to help these people. And so took many trips there. I've been there 15 times. I spent a month over there a couple years ago, spent 2-3 weeks at a time usually. And so there's things that we've done. We started a ministry, a nonprofit in 2017 called Hope Has a Name. And that's one of the biggest things we see is just there's no hope. And so there's the only hope that I know that gives true hope is Jesus.
Yeah.
And so he instructs us to help the poor, help the widow, help the orphan.
Yep.
And so in 2017, when we started this nonprofit, it was really, do I need a nonprofit to be able to do these things? No. But a lot of people donate to us, and there's tax benefits. So we started this. We do a number of things. We've put water barrels and piping in 6 villages now.
Wow.
So basically, after the earthquake, a lot of the water sources were diverted because the earthquake in 2015, which was devastating, over 10,000 people died. So it changed a lot. You'd see half of a mountain gone.
Wow.
And so it changed a lot of the water diversion. And so what we started doing is going to these villages and providing piping, which goes straight to the water source. It could be 300, 400, 500, 600 yards.
Wow.
And then from that water source, it goes down into a barrel, and then the people can go right in their village and get water from the barrel. And we've done that in, like I said, 6 different villages, and it's just really opened the door. We've seen just a change in their attitudes, their hope. We'll go there, and I remember going to a village, a really remote village, and doing this. And this one was a very unique project because the water source was below the village. And so we actually went in. It was a $5,000 project, and we had electricity run to a pump, and they, at the water source, that literally pumped the water up to these 2 huge barrels where they stored the water.
Interesting.
And when I met with the village elder, he said, never in my lifetime did I ever expect to see something like this.
Wow.
Like, he was shocked that this even happened.
Wow.
And so from my ancestors, were his exact words, from my ancestors, we never expected to see something like this.
Interesting.
So we've done that in a few villages. That's something that's we've really been able to help. Our main priority is building a children's home, which the timing is good because everything is on track. We have the land. We've been raising funds. We have builders now. We have the plans. As of right at this moment, our contacts over there are working with the government to get the letter of approval.
Wow, that's
so
exciting.
Our goal is by the end of March, the construction will start. We already have 9 children ready to move in when it's finished in the fall. And so that's really our main focus of what we do.
Yeah.
I was over there 1st of February with my daughter, who helps me quite a bit. She's on the board and helps me with a lot of things. But we were over there meeting with the builders, getting all the plans together, making sure we have everything set up, meeting with the people that are going to run the home. So that's kind of what we've been doing. I'm fortunate that with our business and having the team that we have, that I'm able to go away for
weeks at
2
a time.
weeks at a time.
Yeah.
And most people don't even realize I'm gone. So my clients don't even realize it because
What does that say? Does that make you feel sad?
Well, it makes me feel that I've got a good team.
Yes,
That's right.
100%.
And they're placed there for a purpose of allowing me to do these things.
Yeah.
And hiring Lena was the best decision that I've ever made in my business, and it changed my business. And it was it was really a miracle that she came on, and she's done things that allow me to go do what, my calling or my second calling or whatever you want to call it. So.
Yeah, that's really interesting about the children's home. Now, when that's built, what's the staffing going to, and this is, completely off topic, but how is that going to be running?
Well, and that's a good question. We've got a lot of contacts over there. I've been there so many times that I've got really good relationships with people.
Sure.
And we've got a family that is actually in the process of being trained to run the home. However, and this is a beautiful thing, and it just shows how God works in every little detail. When I was over there in December, was my first trip since COVID. I went over there in December and met with a woman who's 62 years old. She runs a children's home in Kathmandu on her own.
Whoa.
She's Nepali. She doesn't have any support from out of the country. She has some local business owners that have given her, she has to bring in her own water. They pay for the water to come in, but she's done it basically on her own. And in October, the lease for her home where she has these children is expiring. The owner's coming in, he's tearing it down, he's building a big apartment complex. So the timing is amazing. So I met with her. I thought, man, this is a great story. She's done this on her own. She's had a rough life. Husband died. She was abandoned as an orphan when she was 9 years old. Just an amazing story of how she said, this is a need, I'm going to fill it.
Yeah.
So she sold land that she had inherited before her mother died, and sold that land when she was 54 years old to start this children's home.
Wow.
And so I met her. I'm like, it was on my heart. We need her.
Yeah.
So on our last trip, I went to our contacts and told them, this is where my heart is we need to bring her on and have her be a part of this.
Yeah.
And he said, yes, we've already been talking about this because her lease expires. So we're going to basically what's happening, and the way it's all working out is amazing, but we're going to bring her on. She's got experience working with the government. She's got experience working with children. She's got all the experience we need. So she's going to come in, help set up the home because there's a lot of governmental things that have to be done.
Yeah.
And then she's going to train this family that's going to take it over.
Wow.
And so literally we are taking care of the widow and the orphan.
That's
And so having her come in with these 9 children, I've already got contacts over there. I've got a friend that runs a private school, and he is giving those children free education.
Wow.
that's wonderful.
So it's just
That's
one thing
tremendous.
after another of how everything has worked out, but that's who's going to be running the home.
Yeah.
Because I can't be there. It's not allowed
No.
for
Yeah.
American to
Oh,
do that.
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, Americans can't own land. Americans can't run homes like that without special government permission. And there's some
Which I'm sure is
places
very hard to obtain.
in very remote western Nepal where they do have some Americans running
Okay.
orphanages or children's homes. But with the area we are, they do not allow. It's got to be run by a Nepal.
Well, praise God, you have a
So-
local with experience, and she'll work on
Mhm.
training. And I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Everything's
incredible.
lined up,
That's
yeah.
awesome to
Yeah.
hear. I feel like that'd be a really good clip for Instagram as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So, okay. Well, last then, when you're not traveling to Nepal or leveraging and working in the mortgage industry, what are you doing with your free time?
I'm really a boring guy. I mean, because I get all my excitement when I'm over there climbing in those mountains.
I'll
But
bet, yeah.
when I come home, I just want to be with my family.
Mm-hmm.
So I spend a lot of time with my family. I go to I work out I try to keep in shape because it's a challenge to walk up those peaks.
Yeah.
So I know those mountains and those remote areas, but so I exercise and I spend a lot of time with my family.
I love that.
When I'm not working, I'm with my family.
Yeah.
And my wife taught me a long time ago is that if you're on the phone, you're not with me.
Yeah.
So when I'm with her, that phone
You
is off.
disconnect.
Even
Yeah.
on the weekends, I try to keep it off. We have this really great new pre-approval system where I can get someone pre-approved and send out a electronic email that the realtor can go in and print the pre-approval up to an amount that we've already specified.
Oh, wow.
And they don't even have to come to me on a Saturday and go, hey, I
That's
need this pre-approval.
really
That's
nice.
great. Sunday night, I need this pre-approval. So that has really helped with
Yeah, that's nice
our
for
family time.
you, and that's nice for them too, because
Yep.
they can just go get it themselves
Anytime.
I mean, wow, that's really
Yep.
really valuable. That's something that we're young. He was working as my transaction coordinator, but his wife actually has been working with Navy Fed, and we're working on bringing her into the business as well to work on different things. So it's exciting with all of us. I mean, they're my family here who I spend time with, and my sister who lives here as well. So it's cool to have everybody working in the business or at least in the industry, because
So you got them all to move down from Illinois. Huh?
oh, I did.
Yeah,
100% I
most of
did.
them,
Yeah, I
anyway.
called him. They came back and visited back in, and I'm really proud of this story. They came back and visited back in January, and I told him, I said, if you come down and visit me, I promise you're not going to want to live in Alton, Illinois anymore. And no offense to anybody watching this from Alton. I love Alton, but I love it because of the people, not because of really any other reason. And so, yeah, when I started getting busy enough to where I felt like I have enough in savings to where I could bring on somebody onto payroll, I thought, this is perfect. This is perfect.
Yeah.
And so they kind of came down here with that thought in their heads of, all right, is this where God's leading us? Is this a wise move for us? And then they started saving up, and yeah, we got them down here late September. And so he and his wife were moving down, and my sister was really kind of having problems, just needed a change as well. And my next door apartment opened up. And so I called her and I said, hey, put in your 2 weeks, throw your stuff in their moving van, and you guys can all just come down at the same time.
Worked out well.
So we're working on my parents. Mom and Dad, if you're watching this, we want you down here too. But yeah, no, it's fun to have my family here. I have a cousin and his fiance who live down here, and I spend most of my time with them as well. And that's, so my point to that was just saying everybody understands. I'm not to that place yet where I can
Completely
not
disconnect.
take calls. Yeah, but nobody gets irritated
sure.
at
And
me, so.
there's occasion when I have to,
Understood,
but
yeah.
it's like, I'm sorry, honey. I'm gonna give me 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she gets it. It's when I'm on the phone at eating a meal or when I'm. So
Yeah,
that's the kind
yeah.
of stuff she's
Well,
like. No,
yeah, and
let's
that's
stop.
hard not to do. You have to be deliberate to kind of step out of that role, because it's tough.
Well, and we love our business. We love our clients.
Yeah.
But my wife and family have first priority.
Well, and
come
that's
first.
the thing, that's why you work the business too, is to be
That's-
able to spend more time
Yep.
with your family, and
That's
it's that 6 of one, half.
Yeah,
dozen of the
I
other
talk
kinda-
about that a lot, or I get heated about that a lot, because I feel like a lot of people, they neglect their family, and they say, I'm doing all this for my family, but your family wants you.
Yeah.
That's something. And I don't have a family, so I can't really say that yet, but that's just my
Well,
observation.
and you hear that buzzword a lot of
Yeah.
life balance.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
what is your
Mhm.
life balance? Well, for different people, it's different things.
Yeah.
But for me, it's being with my family.
100%.
That's right.
I love that. Well, Steve, we appreciate you coming on the show. Really, it's been a tremendous and long episode. I feel like there's a lot more that we could jump into here. If people wanted to get in contact with you, should we send them to social media, phone call? How would you like people to reach you?
They can email steve@choosecornerstone.com.
There we go.
Phone call 473-6646, area code 850.
There we go. We'll put that in the description, the show notes, and any closing remarks for our listeners?
Thank you for I've really enjoyed it. It's been fun.
Good.
It's a lot of times we have so much in us that we don't even think about until you draw it out. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you making me think about all these things.
Well, you're welcome. We're really glad you bring a lot of interesting and valuable experience to the table. So appreciate you being down to jump on the podcast, Steve. Thanks so much.
Enjoyed it.
All right.